Hello, my name is Dasha Kelly Hamilton. Welcome to Poemalogues. I'm the Poet Laureate for the city of Milwaukee and for the state of Wisconsin. And Poemalogues, they're an opportunity to gather folks to a virtual table and have conversations that we might not be able to fall into in any other circumstances. And just don't mean being in a virtual reality or not, but often we get into conversations that are habit, that are rote, that aren't inspiring at all, that we don't get a chance to just talk. And Poemalogues gives us a chance to do that. Now, there are poems involved, but let me be clear. Poemalogues is not an academic literary review of poetry. It's a poetic scavenger hunt that gives me an opportunity to connect with some old friends and make best friends with some new voices. So today with Poemalogues, we're going to have a conversation about legacy. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word legacy? And these are the invitations that we extend to our guests, and then we bring them on in to hear what they have to say when we find out about their personal stories. That's what this is all about, meeting new people. For me, when I first thought about legacy today, what came to mind was a conversation of history. Now, of course, legacy, in my opinion, is the emotional side of history, is it's the impact of a historical moment or a historical lineage. And it got me thinking about history in general, about how we're introduced to it, about how easily it can be skewed, and what happens to all of us when folks before us took liberties with history and the emotion of legacy. I'll share the poem that I came up with in my little search in this mental tour. But first, we are going to have a conversation with Mr. Al Chaney. Al, welcome to the Poemalogue space.
Thank you, Dasha. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. So I wanted to just, first of all, of course, thank you for making the time. And just because I'm nosy, what did you interrupt to make time for this today?
My typical daily life, which is I work from home. My business is at home. So I, am a marketing consultant, and my clients I communicate with, now, via Zoom, primarily. A half hour before this, I was on another call, just doing my thing with my clients.
Well, on one hand, making that the client run, you're just going from one tab to the next, as opposed to zipping all over town or jumping on a plane. So to that end, getting through your busy days from your chair, I hope you have slippers on. There's a bit there.
And so, I do.
Then you're doing
but I also
right.
have pants on too, so you don't have to worry about that. If I have
you're overachieving. You're overachieving right now. So tell us, Al, I've had a chance to have some early conversations with you, and I've decided that I'm absolutely keeping you. So I've had a chance to hear your story, but I would love for you to introduce yourself to the folks who are joining us today. Tell us your whole life story.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a few decades, in there. I was raised on the East Coast. I, live in central Wisconsin now, and I have for the preponderance of my adult life lived in the upper Midwest. But I was born in Philadelphia. My mom and dad were primarily East Coasters. Lived a little bit in Philadelphia. After I was born, about 6 years, then to Baltimore, spent a few years there. And then when I was going into fifth grade, my parents had separated a couple of years before, but it was time for my two brothers and I to head back to mom. And she was in southeastern Connecticut, and that's where I call home. I'm a big believer is home is where mom is. And she lives there in a small town, about 30,000, New London, with my 103-year-old grandmother. And my grandmother is doing, well through COVID, as has my mother. But I got out to the upper Midwest through, work. I got my MBA at Columbia and University in New York. started work at General Mills in marketing. Loved it, thoroughly loved, and have loved doing marketing for my career. I've done more TV commercials for cereal brands, yogurt brands, etc., more than the law should allow. Then after almost 10 years at General Mills, I went to Pillsbury, did marketing there, as well as put my big toe in the water in sales to kind of touch another base. General Mills acquired Pillsbury, and I said, been there, done that, time to do something else. And I wanted to get in the nonprofit world. So I found an opportunity to be the marketing director for the American Red Cross on their blood services side in St. Paul, Minnesota, and did that until an opportunity arose for me to do something in my career that I felt I needed to do. I felt I was at a point where I could run a marketing department, that I could be the marketing leader for an organization. In Marshfield Clinic was looking for their first, head of marketing, and they hired me. And 10 years later, it was the biggest healthcare brand in the state of Wisconsin, and I felt that was, a fair achievement, on my part. Work with good people, talented people, had great agencies to help me. But when I left the clinic, new leadership, we weren't seeing eye to eye. I had an option, to look for an equal job or equivalent job as I had at the clinic. And to do that would mean I'd have to relocate. Not a lot of big marketing jobs in the state of Wisconsin. And when you're looking for a job, it's always a point in time. They aren't all available. And for me to do what I did at the clinic or at that kind of level, I needed to relocate out of the state. And I have two daughters then that were 10 and 12, and didn't want to leave them. I've gone through 2 divorces. I have 3 girls, and divorce isn't fun, but my daughters were always my priority. And they need a man in their life, and I wanted to be that man. And I was not going to leave my girls, so I hung out my own shingle and started working, out of my home on my own in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Yeah, you're not going to find this kind of marketing talent in a small town like this too often.
No.
But yeah, but my girls, they're probably what, soon to be 15 in March and 17 in July. So 9th grade and 11th grade. And
you are the thick of it.
Yep. And I've got a 32-year-old daughter who's a creative director at an agency in Atlanta, Spelman grad, AKA. So yeah, she's celebrating, Pamela.
It's funny. I'm a Delta, so my husband teases me all the time. Said, "Oh yeah, but the Divine Nine, we're all claiming. We're all claiming.
Right. That's, and we should. We can claim her on a number of different,
so many levels.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. Yeah. I'm interested. I wanted to say with your narrative, all of these pivotal, each of those pivotal moments were these decisions, and we all have them. And so on one hand, it's not remarkable at all, but at the fact that you were making these pivotal moves, what I've come to this year, and I don't want to do this anymore. And think about how often people stay on a track because they've invested time and energy and this newness, from leaving a industry to leaving a company to leaving a marriage to leaving a city. There's so many reasons that we can convince ourselves not to, and a lot of folks make moves like that once or twice and expand it. So it seemed like you would seem to be on a schedule where you make those moves. Were you always able to make big decisions that way, or how have you pushed against all the reasons why you shouldn't, from fear to unknown? I guess I'm saying I've found people are built to move that way, to make these kind of quantum leaps? What do you think about that, and how have you done it?
Yeah, for me, it hasn't been. I'm not a big guy in or big in confiding in a lot of people. There may be, one or two people, that their opinion matters, to me. Their opinions aren't always right, but I feel like, having gone to business school, having worked at places like General Mills and Pillsbury, you're taught to make decisions, and you're taught to make decisions kind of quickly and decisively. I That's why I tell people, don't worry about things. Don't worry, about your marriage. Don't worry about what's happening on the job. Don't worry, because it's not going to solve anything. It's it's a pure form of negative energy. Worrying doesn't help anybody. If anything, it's going to make you feel badly. It's going to make you sick, literally physically sick. So I try to focus on and teach my girls to focus on solutions.
Okay.
What's the answer? How do you solve it? How do you make it better?
So the same thought process, but it's problem solving. I was going to ask you, well, when is worrying not problem solving? When is problem solving not worrying?
Yeah, I mean, it always starts off, for me. It does start off as worrying. Okay, something is bothering me, and then I think this is where I can pivot, a bit more quickly, because I do believe that worrying doesn't solve anything. When I sense the worrying, I try to start to think about, okay, how do I solve this? How do I fix it? What is the way to make this work? It could be a problem at work. It could be, financial. Okay, what are the potential solutions to figure this out?
Okay.
So that's what I try to focus on. And now, it's going to be really tough if you don't have any solutions.
Oh, that part? That part?
Yeah, that part. If there aren't any
worrying,
solutions, right? Yeah, that's scary. And But I feel like I'm blessed. I'm blessed in the sense that I've had an education, that I've had experiences that have exposed me to a lot. So that allows my mind to think a bit more freely about potential solutions. My career is dotted with, even when I was at General Mills and Pillsbury, I took on projects that other people wouldn't. No one would believe, that a black gringo from Minnesota could come up with an Hispanic cereal. And my team and I did. And I had, a buyer in El Paso say that to me. How does a black gringo from Minneapolis come up with a cereal like this?
It says so much too about being clear about how you, not just what you bring to the table, but I have found it's really important and helpful to know how I work. Not just that I'm amazing, but how my amazing is put together. Because at the same time, if I would have paused every time someone on the other side of a table was looking at me with that, how is that going to work? Or who would do that? Or that doesn't make any sense. If I paused every time someone didn't understand what was perfectly clear in my head, we
Right.
wouldn't have this conversation right now,
Right. Right.
And of course, I've had some wild ideas that just should not have come out of my head. So that's part of the balance. But I'm just responding to your story, and a lot of it comes from, like you said, the decisions you've been able to make them quickly, and don't worry if they're wrong. Some of them will be wrong. So
They
I'm
will
just
be.
resonating with me, that commitment to not determining we're not right all the time, but we're clear about how we get to right. So it says also.
And Dasha, I really do believe, whether it's at work or in your personal life, decisions are made easier if you have values and principles.
You better preach to people, Al.
If you don't have any values, you don't have any principles. If they're not in your mind, if you don't live by them, it's harder to make decisions. It's easy to make a decision when you know that, okay, I value the opinion of other people. Okay? If you value the opinion of other people, then ask other people for their opinion. You know, before you make a decision, ask them for their opinion. You know, I've had positions where they evaluated a manager's ability to empower their people. And I was rated number one in my organization for empowering people. So that
Okay.
meant the people that worked for me felt like I empowered them. I gave them, you know, the license to make decisions. And it's true because a lot of the decisions that we make in life are gray. They're not black and white. And if decisions are black and white in business, they ain't paying you. Anybody can make a black and white decision. Anybody can flip a switch up or down, you know?
It's
But
that
it's
lever,
those,
that dial you have
that's
to be able
right, that
to.
gray. When you start dealing in that gray area, you know, you talk about calibration and
Yeah.
sensitivity and things like that, then you got to trust other people to make a decision too. You know, you got to trust other people, say, hey, I know this is what I think, and you think this. So why don't we try this? Why don't we go with your idea? And if it works, great. It doesn't mean that my idea wouldn't have worked. It just means that, you know, you learned how to make a decision and follow through on it. And I learned, you know, how to help somebody make that decision.
And
So
we can
yeah,
embed that in management training and a couple of teacher training. I think that we'd be a little bit further, generation or two down the line.
hey, you know, most people, what they complain about a bad boss is that that bad boss won't give them license to do anything. They're smothering, you know, they want to be, you know, in their shorts about everything. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why isn't this on my desk? Why isn't this done? There are too many people that, you know, that don't have the self-confidence to trust their people, you
Very
know?
true.
You know,
Whew.
the worst thing that happens is that if the decision is wrong, all right, you got to back up. You have yours. All right, let's reverse course. Let's do this. You
And
know,
fix it.
right.
Let me ask you this. What was I wanted to ask you about our topic today. How did you enter this idea of legacy? What's the first thing that came to your mind?
First thing that came to my mind was my daughters. You know, my three girls, and I looked up the word, you know, legacy, and you know, it's a gift. Legacy is a gift. You
Okay.
know, at least the dictionary. I pride myself on having a dictionary on all my, you know, devices,
Yes.
so that if I have to look up a word or if I need a thesaurus, it's at my fingertips. I can just look it up.
Hmm.
So legacy is about a gift, and typically or historically like in a will. But I do believe that, um, you know, because I have been through two divorces with both my sets of kids, my oldest daughter and my youngest two, when they were young, that my gift to them is my presence, you know, in their life. That I want to be there for them. That, you know, I don't take weekends or days off. I've been fortunate to have a career where if I need to pick up my daughters from school, I can go do it and get back to work, drop them off at home, get back to work, drop them off at daycare, wherever it might be. But if it's my day, my Wednesday to have my girls, I have them on Wednesday. I pick them up at noon. I'll pick my girls up at noon tomorrow, and my calendar is open in the afternoon Wednesday when I pick up my girls because I want to, you know, give them attention. I You only get one chance to raise your kids right, so I hope that my gift to my girls is that, you know, that they will be present for their kids. They will try to help their kids, through, problems and issues by listening. Um, my my two youngest daughters will tease their oldest sister because they've never been spanked. Well, they've never been spanked, not because I don't believe in spanking. They haven't been spanked because they haven't needed to be spanked. I think it's a big deal with kids is to be able to say no. If you aren't willing to say no, um, if you're willing to take the back talk, all right, You got to live with it. But I've been able, even as teenage girls right now, you know, when I, they'll come over
We're all
tomorrow.
giving you a group hug right now.
Oh my gosh. Some of this, I don't know how much is me, how much is their mom, how much is it them or is it them? But they don't sequester themselves in their room. They're sitting with me, out in the living room. They may have their devices with them, but they have a TV in their room. They could be in their room watching TV. They're not doing that. They're sitting out there with, they're with me, and we're eating together, we're talking, we'll watch the news together. But I think it all starts with, being willing to listen to your kids, but you got to be willing to say no. I don't describe myself as their best friend because I'm not. I'm not their best friend. I don't think I should be until they're adults, until they're out on their own. And if they want to be friends and best friends, we can. But now my role is parent.
We have a job to do.
That's my job, to prepare them for the real world. So my gift is preparing them for the real world, preparing them to be parents themselves. But some of it I know it's them. Boy, both girls. I mean, they don't give me a hard time. I mean, I'm fortunate. I can say no, or I could raise my voice, and that's as far as I need to go, at least now.
Oh, absolutely. And between the generations of the girls, they are different. So I had a niece that I raised like a daughter, was with me for many, many years. And I have one of the girls, she was like me. You say the word disappointed, I've got all of that in check. And this one over here, I may have to snatch you up right quick for us to have an understanding. We need to have a meeting in the bathroom here in the store for us to be clear about what's going to go on. So they are individuals. Even though we have a master plan as a parent, you have to modify it for the people, and particularly as a daddy. I've told my oldest father when she was still a munchkin, I said, listen, you need to get the word no in your mouth. It can't just come from me. So I understand daddy's girl. I understand your princess. I understand. Listen, I've been a teenage girl. I know what it looks like when a teenage girl has never been told no. I know what it's like to work with a woman who's never been told no. The world doesn't work that way. And I've not just her dad, but I've always been really close, just fascinated by men. So we have these conversations with my guys. Well, tell me, what are you thinking and how? And fathers have said, you have to understand, you all as mothers had a 9-month head start. We're literally on the outside waiting to be put into the game. And there's so much. I said, so you're jealous about breastfeeding? Is that what this is all about? But there are things that we work through. He said,
no. Mm-mm. Not jealous about childbirth either. Those 9 months. Nope. Let me just make up the ground, Yep.
But carving new space for our fathers. We got to continue to carve fresh space for our fathers.
Yeah. If you had to liken it to a fable or to a like sort of like a children's story, it's the tortoise and the hare. And dads may be that tortoise. You start off a little.
That's fair. That's perfect.
You start off a little behind, and then the divorce environment where you don't have as much time with your kids as mom might have, but then how you make up ground is the quality of the time that you spend with them, because you ain't going to catch up. I'm not going to get them days back. You're not going to catch up on them. So when they're with me, that is the quality of that time. It's gotta matter. So yeah, I think it's the tortoise and the hare.
I like that.
Yeah. Let them lie down and fall asleep on the way, and it is all of a sudden you look up and it's just kind of like, if this weren't being recorded, one of my daughters conveyed to me something, and it's just kind of like, okay, I've caught up.
You've caught up. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I'm going to ask you, what's something that you're excited about? And then I'm going to ask if you can share that poem that you found when you were thinking about your girls and your legacy.
Yeah, right now, I'm excited about working with you. You
Hey,
know, um, my goodness, how often do you get a chance to work with a creative change agent? Somebody who is the poet laureate, for Wisconsin and for Milwaukee, and has a portfolio of works that exemplifies talent, creativity, possibilities. I shared with my team yesterday. One of my creative team members lost his 95-year-old grandfather
mm,
um, last week. Literally buried him on his 95th birthday. Okay, so he died just days short of turning 95.
mm.
Um, but we all agreed, when we were talking about it, is that, because I asked my daughters about it end of last week, and it said, if you could be buried on your birthday, would that be a good thing? And they said, yeah, I think I would like that. I think to be buried on your birthday or to pass on your birthday is kind of nice. Yeah, literally coming full circle, complete circles. But yeah, we're excited. I was talking to
Wow.
them about you. I've got a page of questions, follow up. You
People
know,
typically have a page of questions having,
hmm
and thank
hmm
you for saying that. And no, I didn't pay him to say that about being
Oh
great. I really
no,
appreciate that. I'm excited to work
no,
with you
no. She's not paying me right now.
too. We
We're
haven't
just
even got to that
starting,
part yet.
right? We're just talking.
This is great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I
Right.
appreciate your time. So let's share your poem. What did you find? How'd you find it?
Yeah, I found it doing a Google search on poems about daughters, fathers to daughters. But what I found curious is that I read the poem before I looked at who the poet was or where the poet was from, and if anything, I wanted to find a poet that was from a dad,
Hmm.
from a dad wrote it, um, and I saw poems from Yeats and Oscar Wilde and some others, and I started reading those, and I'm going like, no, I got to do research to understand what this person is saying. This is from a different era. This is not today. So I wanted something that was a bit more contemporary. But the poem I found actually was written by a daughter from a father's perspective. Because I think when I read the poem, you're going to realize that wow, this was written by a daughter, um, and not her father. So I didn't find other stuff that I really connected with. I really like this one. All right, so it's called A Father Through the Eyes. Excuse me. It's called A Daughter Through the Eyes of a Father. A Daughter Through the Eyes of a Father by Velmar Pee Wee Hale Johnson. And I'll explain the name because I did look up the author. A daughter is beauty at its finest, heart of an angel, soul so pure and sweet. Daughters are one of God's most precious gifts that he has bestowed upon the world. Angels in heaven don't compare to thine beauty and grace, my ever so beautiful and lovely daughter. Seeing you at birth brought more joy to me than all the money in the world could ever do. You are morning, bright and shining. You are noon. You reside at the highest point in my heart. You are the dew kissed night. You are my daughter, heart, and soul.
You are the highest part of my heart. I love that language.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think you landed on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to find poems. And there are some that just look like they belong on a plaque.
Mhm,
That
mhm.
but yeah, this one resonated, and I felt like I could easily change uh, the number, change it from daughter to daughters, and it would still work. You
Yes.
know, um, And that was the other part, because I didn't want to feel like I was just talking to one of my daughters. I was talking to all three, of my girls.
You
Um,
better.
oh,
I'm super grown. I still better get the same gift my sister gets.
well, yeah.
Daddy gonna call me as much as he calls her. It doesn't stop.
Do you get into with your sister? Like who's daddy's favorite?
No, we both understand that we both understand that we are his favorite and the other one isn't. And that's our running joke. My
My
father's
girl.
card to him was thank you, I love you from your favorite. And so she's also got the same card from your favorite. So we've all settled on this is never going to be a decided discussion. And
Yeah,
it should
yeah.
be. It should be. It should be.
Right. No, it shouldn't. I tell my daughters I love them equally, but they all battle, or all of them will say, "Well, I'm his favorite. Well, I'm his favorite. I'm his favorite." It's just like none of you are my favorite.
I had a girlfriend of mine when she would, for the holidays, she would sign, she had three girls as well. And she signed all of their holiday cards. I love you. You're my favorite. So they all three do that.
I might do that. I
Yeah,
might start doing that. I might take that. I might just start doing that. Thank you. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At the
Thank
holidays, I won't do it for birthday cards, but at the holidays when they all get a card at the same time, I like that. I like that. That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
making this time today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Taking a break from your Zoom tab tour and
Yeah.
a chance to just have a conversation, getting to know you even better. And turns out that you have a discerning poet eye. So I'm glad that we were able to send you on this scavenger hunt. You've got one
Oh,
that
thank you.
hold for you and your girls for a long time.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. All right. You be
So,
good.
absolutely, you too. We've been talking about legacy today, and I'm glad we had a chance to chat with Al Chaney, who's coming to us from Marshfield, Wisconsin. And his first ideas about legacy took him to thinking about his daughters. And I was so enjoyed that conversation. I almost forgot to share with you the poem that I found. So I had a different entry point, of course, as humans will have different entry points in any conversation about legacy. The first thing that came to my mind was the conversation around history. And I thought about how, as a young person in elementary school, we're introduced to history in a disjointed way. So I was a full grown adult before I was really able to piece together, oh, this was happening in this country at this time, and this was happening in this culture at that time, and where they connected and where they influenced each other. And I understand at 9 or 11 in elementary school history, I would have not had the capacity or the interest for all of those connections. So I get why, sort of, we didn't learn it that way, but it does make me have to reevaluate what I think I know about history. And where that comes into play, in particularly where legacy comes into the discussion, are the points of history that are shaped and written and taught in schools in ways that are inaccurate, in ways that were clearly designed to shape how people felt at the time. For example, when the explorers decided to make on their maps the continent of Africa smaller than it actually is, and actually that didn't get changed until like 5 years ago, but they wanted the continent to look smaller because it felt better. But that decision about how to change history for how it felt at the moment changes how we remember history, legacy, the importance of things to come and go based on who shaped the story. And Chimamanda Adichie, a writer, has a piece in her single story TED Talk where she says, if you start the story with the arrows of the Native Americans, instead of starting the story with the invasion of the Europeans, you have two completely different narratives. So that's what got me thinking about legacy today. And my search then, I put into the search looking for a poem about revisionism. So what I ended up with was not exactly, or actually not at all about history, but every much about history. So it's called Revisionism by Susan Blackwell Ramsey. Grandpa shrugged when the feds at the kitchen door said the pigpen weeds was marijuana, and they were to cut them down and burn them. Got lots more weeds. Feel free to cut them too. Marijuana was in the news a lot when I first heard this story. Mom and I laughed at her father's innocence, briefly united in a patronizing of our parents. Years later, when she told it, she added, but Dad did have terrible arthritis in his hands, and I wouldn't bet he didn't know what he had growing out there. And suddenly, I saw the wooden box with the slotted roller in the top, cigarette rolling machine, the knob we'd turned this into crayon down to the waiting tray. Of course, everybody rolled their own in the Depression, nothing damning there, but I felt history cough, twist in my hand, watched my solid mother grow translucent, capable of recasting legend, in fact. The last time I heard it, she concluded, and you know, I wouldn't care to bet it wasn't my mother who called those agents in. Thank you for making time to be here with us for Poemalogues. We are going to have a new conversation with a new human every Monday, and you can drop right here to the Retreat MKE and to the Dasha Kelly Hamilton, both on YouTube or on Facebook. You know the deal. Do the whole like, click, subscribe business so we can see you here next time. And tell people about what you heard. And more importantly, keep looking for poems. And even more important than that, find someone new to talk to. Thank you for being here for Poemalogues. We'll see you again soon.